Here's the thing about your movie, why I made a curator's pick of the Hollywood Fringe community, heart,
I love being black. You can't take that away from me. But when I look at my people, I'm also a philosopher. So I like truth. I'm a black philosopher. So when I look at African Americans, sorry, no. Sorry, that's not my culture. No, sorry. When we were coming up, it was African Americans that were against us. If we're going to talk real, let me get this last piece out. Our parents were not with us. The civil rights movement was not with us. All them dudes that fought in the civil rights and all that, they wanted us to do the same thing, wear the same clothes, speak the same language, pick up the same thing. And even though we said hip-hop is Dr. King's dream, hip-hop is Marcus Garvey's dream, this is Malcolm X's dream, even though we said that, the older black community still steamrolled our CDs. Go online, look up Reverend Calvin Butts, Jesse Jackson, the NAACP, the Urban League. They all got together when Snoop Dogg put out Doggy Style album. They all got together, held up his album and said, this is hip hop and this is gangsta rap. Threw it on the floor and steamrolled about 100 albums. This was their public ceremony in 1994, right when we're doing the Stop the Violence movement, right when we're declaring hip hop an international culture. This is what our parents are doing. This is what our parents are doing. Now, not all of our parents. I could say Kwame Ture, formerly known as Stokely Carmichael. He's on my album, Edutainment. Stokely Carmichael used to always be with hip-hoppers. Any chance he got, he was there trying to teach us something. Rest his soul, Kwame Ture, remember his name. He was a dude that stood with us and said, yo, this is what you gotta know, this is what you gotta do, so on and so on. Another name to remember, Dr. Betty Shabazz, Malcolm X's wife. She stood with us when everybody was dissing. When they had hip-hop on the Congressional, had us, there was a 2 Live Crew was in the court. They were trying to say 2 Live Crew album was obscene. They were going to jail for an album. 2 Live Crew had to get up in the court. Who stood with us? Dr. Betty Shabazz. I saw her right there on C-SPAN. She came on, they was having this big hearing, and she said, we're the parents. How can we be against our children? We created them. If they're doing anything wrong, we should look at ourselves. No one wanted to hear her. They was just, no, listen to the lyrics. Oh, listen to what they're saying. Oh, listen to what they're doing. This is our parents. Last piece on this, my last minute.
We're actually over 5.
We're over 5, yes. Last piece on the album. Hip hop is beyond race. Let me say it again. Hip hop is beyond race. Let me say it again. Hip hop is beyond race. Let me say it again. Hip hop is beyond race. The media wants to portray us as some black ghetto thing. It was never that. From the very beginning of hip hop, all cultures participated. Now, of course, like I say to you all the time, and this to be hip hop, you gotta know this. Yes, Africans are usually at the beginning of pretty much everything. Okay, let's just get that clear, okay? Africans, when it comes to culture, art, civilization, the human sciences, Africans are usually at the beginning of that. There it is. But other cultures come along, and they usually take what the African creates, and they make it better. This also is history. We like to talk all the time about, how great Africa was, how great African history was. Well, keep in mind that all cultures were in Africa at all times. Yeah. When we think think of Africa, we think of black folk. Nah. The first slaves in Africa were white folk. Nobody knows about this. No one knows about the Eastern Europeans that were caught by the Vikings, going way back. The Romans were the first ones to enslave other white people. That's why they rose up and destroyed Rome. Rome was selling white people to Africans. Africans were buying up white people. Arabs were selling whites and blacks. The blacks were selling blacks. Whites were selling whites. Asians were selling everybody. This idea of one race doing this and one race doing that, hip-hop needs to erase that from the human psyche because it's not true. Everybody participated in evil, and everyone participated in good. So you're gonna have to rethink history to call yourself a true citizen of hip-hop. We're outside of race. We recognize race. We know what it means to be our ethnicities and our cultures. But if you're gonna start a real civilization, you're gonna start a real nation, you're gonna start something that our children can be proud of, man, we're gonna have to leave race to the side. We're gonna have to go with Dr. Martin Luther King. We're gonna have to start judging each other by the content of our character. We say it all the time. But this is what hip hop really is about, and I'm proud to be part of this culture where I can say one of the dopest MCs is Eminem. I can then turn around and say, no, and look at Eminem, dope MC. He signed 50 Cent. Yeah, white boy. What do you know about 50? When 50 had demos out too, by the way. Now 50 Cent today, it was a white boy. Okay, keep in mind, Eminem. Go back to something called Lyricist Lounge. Okay, that's where Eminem starts, right over there. Getting his head beaten by real spitters. And he honed his craft with a group called the Outsiders. Go back, look at the Outsiders from Jersey, Young Z. Come on, man, this is where Eminem come from. We don't care about no color. Spit your verse. Let me hear what you got, let me hear your soul. That's what we're interested in, and that's called hip hop. Thanks, y'all. I'm sorry, I didn't take any questions. I don't know, do we have time for that? What are we doing?
We're doing an open mic.
Yeah, you prefer the open mic or the question?
No, you're the open mic.
I'm the open mic? I don't know the beat on and get live. Let's take a few questions and just try to keep the time right. What you looking at? Oh, word. We start right here. I mean, obviously, Hip Hop Appreciation Week, May 14th to the 20th, we've been doing this since 1998. It's just a time for those who are hip hop to just recognize their appreciation for it. It's a time when you tell your young people about the history of hip hop. If you're a DJ, you play more conscious music. Try something with a message during this week. That's why this is up here now. Someone just pointed to it. Questions, come on. Joe.
Nowadays, a lot of elements are like separated.
Yep.
What is your suggestion for people that do like b-boy jams, that do rap battles? How important is it to like maybe integrate that to you, or how would you suggest?
You know, it's unity is always important, but only at the top. We could use a little more competition. There's a delicate balance with that because I argue for unity, I argue for cooperation. But when you say b-boy battles or multiple events going on at once, it's best that those events compete with each other to raise the quality of all of the events. It's for business, it's better that way. But culturally, there should be something said that if, say, we are all competing and one person wins over, say, the other two, there should be some sportsmanship from the winner that says, look, I'll cut you 10% of what we just did. Next time around, if I fall or don't get a big enough audience, you do me like that. This is how Walmart works with Target and works with Lowe's, works with Home Depot, you know, like these kind. We can do the same things. We can compete, but on the cultural level, we have to cooperate. So on the cultural level, cooperate in the sense of, I'm not trying to put my brother or sister out of business. I'm trying to be better than them, and hopefully they're trying to be better than me and raise the product that we're both putting forward. That's the understanding of it, but the competition may be better.
Thank you.
Yes.
Might be a loaded question.
Come on.
What is the state of the culture?
This culture,
Hip-hop culture. What
the
is the
state of hip hop's culture is right here in front of you right now. Imagine that. No, but take that in slowly. Imagine the whole state of hip hop, the condition of hip hop in the world is right here in this room. And here's how I can say this. One, I'm here.
Yeah.
That's number one. Let's start right here. I'm here. And I'm not saying this arrogantly. I'm saying this factually. Hip hop's master teacher is with you right now. Go to the history, go to the, ain't nobody talking like this. We're the only ones here talking like this. Therefore, if we are the center of the culture, we, all of us right here, we are the center of the culture right here. As it was recorded, some of this will be online. People are not going to just look at me and say, oh, KRS was speaking in Las Vegas. They're going to say hip-hoppers met to hear KRS speak in Las Vegas. They're going to assume that the people in the room were die-hard hip-hoppers that came to hear KRS. That's what it is. And word up. But the thing is, but notice, but when you say, what is the state of hip hop? This is it. We are the state of hip hop right here, right now. Take this spirit, and all of us, take this spirit and share it with others. Let them know that the true center of hip hop is peace, love, unity, and joy. That's the center of it. Come on, next question. Gentleman right here.
Greetings.
Greetings.
Right, so I have basically there is two cultures. I mean, it's my main question is hip hop in regards to the cannabis industry. I've watched a couple, documentaries that basically showcases, the crack rock at the era with hip hop. And my question is with the underground, because right now with the cannabis industry, it's literally the same. It came from the dark and it's now moving into the in the mainstream, like what hip hop was back in the day. And people in the cannabis industry, we're basically faced with the same kind of struggles. Either you stay not necessarily underground or you move mainstream.
Right.
And we have a lot to learn from our elders that have basically been through. So my main question is, I've heard that right from the beginning, there were, right from the beginning with hip hop, there was cannabis literally fueled, the beginning of hip hop as far as helping with the equipment, cool herbs party, people come in, smoking, having a good time, and now that is basically branded into what it is right now with genetics and all these different things involved. How can we basically merge those two cultures together?
Well, it's already happening. First of all, the legalization of marijuana all up and down the West Coast is proving what the rest of America is going to be. Everybody's just basically fighting.
Yeah.
But basically, this is coming like a tidal wave. Because another thing, too, is that you can't do America without a drug. It is something. You're going to take something to be here. Okay? And this is, and what I'm saying to you also is an actual fact. There's an actual fact. What we should be looking at pertaining to your question again, similar to the brother's question over here as well, is that I would argue for more competition. Again, I'm not the one to argue for competition. I'm more arguing for cooperation. But when you talk about the cannabis industry, go back to '73, Cool Herc, and all of that. Even at the same year, 1973, Peter Tosh, famous reggae singer, used to be down with the Wailers, Bob Marley, and all that. Peter Tosh was the leading voice for the legalization. It was Peter Tosh back in the days who was probably one of the first singers to put on vinyl legalized. promote or advocate that. I bring him up because what the Rastafarian religion or organization, community, what the Rastafarian community did was brilliant. It cost them many lives though. But right now, all over the world, a Rastaman can burn his split anywhere. Okay, anywhere. Yes, the racist cop may come and try to poke in this and that, but if we ever get to a court of law, Rastaman walking out the court. Okay, dude may lose his job. Okay, that was amazing what they did. Now remember, there's no law that says, well, the law is that freedom of religion protects Rastafarians because they say that marijuana is a sacrament for them. It's not recreational, it's a sacrament, it's part of their meditation, part of their prayer. And because marijuana in particular, a very potent strand, was found on the grave of Haile Selassie and George Washington and King Solomon, it's like paleoanthropology, this is archaeology. They're finding herb on these kings, okay? England was the first one to allow the Rastafarian community to go ahead and say that's a sacrament. Now the reason I bring that up, it was the Queen of England too, by the way, when Bob was there. They said Bob went to the palace and lit a split with the Queen of England. Big up! But that was Bob in his day. That was his hip hop in that sense. But I mention that to say that we can take a lesson from that. Many lives were lost. A lot of men went to jail. A lot of women went to jail before that was realized, though. We might be in a little different situation. Like, for instance, what Snoop, his image is. Someone looked down and said, man, look, Snoop's image is not an image for our children. Snoop's image is not. But in pertaining to your question, the more Snoop image we get, the more the legal world will say, well, weed goes with hip-hop, or yo, marijuana's with hip-hop. We can't arrest them without discriminating against them for this. If we approach them like the whole world know what hip-hop is about, so we can, it would be discrimination to say, and in the reverse, like if a cop came 10, 20 years from now, maybe if it even takes that long, and says, yo, no, even today, if someone says right now on CNN, I arrested him because he was smoking marijuana, the whole 300 million Americans would laugh at that person. Yeah. The whole country would be like, you don't know who that is, like, or you don't know what they about, or you don't know, you know, they'll say, well, I may not agree with it, but I do know that Snoop Dogg smokes a lot of marijuana. You know, they will go, and I mention that because culturally, this may help us. The more open we are about it, the less legal harm it may come to our children because our culture's recognized for it. And I only use the Rastafarians as an example. There are others, Hindus as well. Hindus in India burn. Matter of fact, it was the Hindus that brought it to Jamaica. The Indians. And the word ganja is actually Sanskrit. Ganja is a Sanskrit Hindu word, comes out of India. And they brought it over to Jamaica and got everybody buzzed. Okay, jumping right in. Yes, come on.
Sorry, I know it's probably you get this a lot. What artists right now are you listening to?
You! No. I am listening to you. I don't have many. I find myself, hip hop is so big right now. I'm listening to the classics, first of all.
Yeah.
A lot of the classic stuff. Find myself around Tribe Called Quest. I'm listening the early mixtapes. I got early Kid Capri. I got I keep thinking Who Kid. I have Who Kid, but that's not what I want to say. Doo-Wop. I've been checking out an early Doo-Wop tape. Back in the days, I got it on CD now. I like the old stuff, obviously. The new stuff, guys like Aesop, Joey Badass, you know, the regular usual suspects.
Locksmith?
Yeah. I heard like 1 or 2 songs. Yeah, wait, let me put a period here. That's really it. What I was going to say was that online these days, is I'm listening to weird events. Meaning, just the other day, I think it was Jizza, right? Someone showed me on the phone Jizza doing my record Beef. I did a record years ago for Beef. What a relief. What a record about vegetarianism, early 90s. Blah, blah, blah. So here's Jizza in an interview with somebody, and they said, well, how did you wind up being a vegetarian? And he said, well, it's KRS record. And he just went on to say it. That's what I'm listening to. The little weird stuff like that. There's a ton of it. I'm totally surprised at what people take from me and put online. I'm like, I can't even, like I just talk like I'm talking like this, and the people just record it, and they say, well, this is the piece that they want to put up on, this kind of thing. So when you say, what am I listening to? I'm listening to a lot of stuff. Books on CD. I read a lot. I read more than I listen in that sense. Just finished a book actually called White Trash by Nancy Eisenberg. Dope book. 400 Years of White Misery. It's just crazy, but she breaks it down.